Hey, how you doing? Justin here. Welcome to Rhythm Maestro, a little course that I've designed to teach you all about rhythm, how to read it, how to write it, how to understand it. It's going to help all kinds of your playing. If you're one of those people that have written in saying, hey, what's the strumming pattern on that song? This series is for you, because you'll just be able to listen to a rhythm pattern, work out what it is, and write it down. If you're writing tabs out on your own, and you always want to write the rhythm down as well, now you're going to be able to do it. You'll be able to write the tab out, and you're going to understand enough about recognizing a rhythm and writing down what it is that you'll be able to add the rhythm on it. The same as if you bought a sheet music book and you see tab and you see the notation, the rhythmic notation above it, you'll be able to make sense of that now too. It's a really big deal. If you're watching this video over on YouTube and you're one of the 71% of people who watch my videos and are not subscribed to my channel, I really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. It really does support the channel, and it takes just one click. Thank you. Now, when I learned guitar, I had a few lessons, I had loads of books, I later on had some video cassettes, if anyone remembers those. But nearly everything talked a lot about the notes and fingerings and stuff, but very little did anyone talk about rhythm. It was always kind of assumed that you'd be able to work it out by listening. And I kind of could. Like, I never felt my rhythm totally sucked. I could usually kind of strum along with the band, but I always kind of had a deep down feeling that I didn't quite get the whole picture, that there was something missing in the rhythmic aspect of my playing. So fast forward a little bit, and I want to give you a bit of history on how this course kind of evolved. 1996, I got a scholarship to go to the Guitar Institute in London, moving from Tasmania. I'd already done a classical music degree, so I had some kind of knowledge of reading music. I could read basic notation, but I always felt like reading and writing rhythm was a bit of a struggle. Now, I was big into Larry Carlton and Robin Ford, the kind of modern blues fusion-y sort of stuff, and I was sharing a lot of transcriptions with other students and some of the teachers. Some of the teachers said, hey man, look, you've only given us half the information here. You've put it all down in tab, but you haven't written the rhythms down. And I was like, man, I'm not sure I know how to do that. That's pretty complicated stuff. I'm just not capable. And it was recommended that I get this drum book and spend a bit of time just tapping out these drum charts, just literally pages and pages of just rhythm. So I did that. I had an hour commute going from my granny's house to the school and back every day. So yeah, it was an hour there, an hour back, sitting there with a metronome, little earpiece on, and sitting there reading these drum books and tapping along. After about 3 months of this 2 hours a day, I felt like it was a pretty remarkable transformation. I could listen to most rhythms in songs that I was working out solos, write them down. But more importantly, I felt more connected with rhythm. Like, I started paying attention more to the rhythms that were being played by drummers and other instruments. I could start writing down that stuff now. I could write down a rhythm, like a rhythm guitar part was really easy. I could just listen to it and go, oh yeah, that's that pattern, and play it back, because I could hear it, internalize it, and kind of draw what the rhythm looked like in my mind, and then either write it down or play it, because I could play it back from my mind too. One of the really profound ways that this changed me was as a teacher. You know, I knew from my own learning experience that oftentimes people kind of gloss over the rhythm a little bit and just assume you can do it. And I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to make sure that I always explained the rhythm with stuff. Hopefully it's something that you notice in my lessons. I always emphasize that, because rhythm is half of music. Like, the notes is only half of it. If you don't get the rhythm right, it's always... things ain't quite going to be the full picture, you know. So in this course, what we're going to do is we're going to start by looking at really basic rhythm. You're going to learn to write it down. You're going to recognize it, be able to write it down, be able to write down a clap. I'm going to clap a rhythm for you, and you're going to be able to write it down. Then I'm going to play you rhythms. First of all, just with muted hits, so you can actually hear it and go, oh, that's that rhythm, and then write it down. Then with chords, so I'll actually be strumming. And you're going to be able to listen to it, and you're going to be able to write that rhythm down, right? It's not super easy, and it's not a super quick fix. You're not going to do it at the end of the lesson. You'll be able to do some of it by the end of the lesson, but to be able to read and write any rhythm is going to take you some time and a little bit of effort. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. By the end of this lesson, you'll know whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, and eighth notes, what they are, how to write them down, and be able to recognize some basic rhythms using those patterns. Over the coming weeks, we're going to introduce ties and rests and syncopation and other fun stuff like that. We're going to be mostly dealing with 8th notes first of all, and then we'll move on to more complex 16th note rhythms and all of the variations that we can use of those. So let's start off with some of the absolute basics then, for those of you with no understanding of rhythmic terms at all, or for those with a little bit more experience that want to make sure they're not missing out anything important. So the first couple of grades of this course are all going to be in 4/4 time. Okay, this means there's 4 beats in the bar. It's called a time signature. There are other time signatures like 6/8 or 3/4, but we're not going to be looking at those until way later on. I want to build a really solid foundation in 4/4 first of all. Now, 4/4 time has 4 beats in a bar. A bar, in American terms, is often called a measure, but it's just a space of time. Okay, so we're thinking 1, 2, 3, 4. That's one bar. In the next bar, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's another bar. So each group of 4 beats we're going to be calling a bar. Now, in between beats, we can have an and. So we can actually count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so now it's time to look at note values. That is the way that we write down how long a note is held for. And we're going to start with the whole note, which lasts for a whole bar of 4/4. That's 4 beats, the whole note. It's written like a circle, actually more like an oval with thickened sides, but you don't need to worry about thickening the sides out. That's only really for professional notation. You just want to go for like a little oval shape. No stem, nothing like it, just the circle itself. That's all you need. That's the whole note, and it's a note that is held for 4 beats. So it's led to ring out, not like you play it and it stops. It needs to ring out. So if we had 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's ringing out for 4 whole beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is a whole note. In an English music school, they'd be calling it a semibreve. I think that's a bit of a mouthful, and I much prefer the American terms for this kind of rhythmic notation. So that's what we're going to be using in this course, but maybe worth noting that in some places you might see it referred to as a semibreve. Okay, whole note. Now, if we cut that in half, we get a half note, which is conveniently worth 2 beats, or half a bar of 4/4. That one is written with the same, it looks just like a semibreve, like a hollow circle or oval, but this time it has a stem. Now the stem can go either down on the left hand side or up on the right hand side. Whether it's going up or down makes no difference to the value of the note. It's purely to make sure that the notation looks nice when you write it down. I would recommend for these kind of exercises that you do all of the stems going up or all of the stems going down. Doesn't really matter which one. I don't care, as long as you do them all the same way. I think that's the important thing. So let me play it for you. So if we got here the beat 1, 2, 3, 4, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is the half note. Again, English version would be called a minim. So next subdivision down, our half note is going to get cut in half, and it'll be a quarter note, and they're worth 1 beat each. 4 of them in a bar of 4/4. 4 quarters makes a whole, and all of that sort of stuff. Now this one looks just like the half note does, but the head, the actual little blob on the end, is colored in. Okay, so the colored in note with the stem is going to be a quarter note. If it's hollow, it's a half note. Okay, that's pretty important. So this one is obviously 4 to the bar. It's going to be played on every beat. So we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. We'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. This would be a bar full of quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and believe it or not, there's one more subdivision that we're going to check out. You guess what it's going to be? We had a whole note, we had a half note, we had a quarter note. We're going to have an 8th note. Tell you what, extra point if you can guess how many there are in a bar. 8th notes. It's going to be 8 8th notes in a bar of 4/4. So this is dividing the beats in half, where we get the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and thing. Okay, so we'd have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, a weird thing about eighth notes is when there's just one eighth note, they're written just like a quarter note, but they've got a little tail on the end. But we're not going to be looking at the ones with the tails right away. We're going to leave that for a little bit. We're always going to see two eighth notes together. And when we have two eighth notes together, we join their tails up. So you'll have like, it looks basically like two quarter notes with a line joining the stems up at the bottom or the top, depending on whether you put the stems down or up. Okay, so if they're joined together, they're going to be eighth notes. So let's just revise that quickly before we move on. If you have a note head with no stem at all, it is going to be a whole note, which is worth 4 beats. If you see a hollow circle or oval with a stem, it's going to be a half note, which is worth 2 beats. If you see a coloured in note head with a stem, it's going to be a quarter note, which is worth 1 beat. And if you see a coloured in dot with a stem and a tail, or 2 tails joined together, they're going to be worth half a beat each. They're eighth notes. Okay, you got that? This will all make sense as you go along. Don't get yourself too flustered about it. We're going to be starting nice and simple, but next up, we're going to learn how to write it down and listen to what the notes are. So now it's time to get real, and we're going to do a little bit of rhythmic dictation. Now that really sounds horrible, but this is the stuff that's going to lead you to being able to work out strumming patterns on your own. So it's a pretty big deal. We're going to start real simple. So we're only going to have quarter notes and eighth notes. Okay, so we're definitely going to have a note on every beat, but we might have an and in there. So we're going to have to turn one of the quarter notes into an eighth note by putting a line next to it and then joining the 2 stems up. Let's kind of talk our way through one first of all before you get too panicked about it. So here I've got my metronome set at 70 beats a minute. 3, 4, 1. And I'm going to give you a pattern. Sometimes I'll play it more than once. I'm just going to do it once just to start off with so you get it clear. So it would be this. Okay, so that was the pattern. 3, 4. Now hopefully you can kind of imagine it went da, 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 da. And if you try and count along with it a bit, you can probably go 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you can get that far and you know that it's going 1, 2, 3, and 4, then you're already there. So you know that you're going to write quarter note, 2 eighth notes, because you're going to write on beat 3 and then join it up so that you've got the and after 3 as well. And then on beat 4. Okay, so again, just listen. You can count along. Counting along really helps as well. So if we got here this 1, 2, 3, 4. You could count along 2, 3, 4. Here we go. It'd be 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'd hear straight away, if you're counting along, that you'd hear that it goes 1, 2, 3, and then there was another one before 4. So you're just looking at this point of where that extra and is. That's all we want. That's all, that at this stage, that's all we want to worry about, okay, is where we're putting the extra and in, just to get it started. Okay, so now I want to do one for real. I'm going to add in an extra clap in one of those beats. I want you to write down what it is. Okay, so this is officially your question 1. Here's the beat. I'm going to do it 3 times, but with a bar in between. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, did you get it? How'd you go? Did you count along? Counting along is really, really helpful. 1, 2, and 3, 4. So you should have quarter note, 2 eighth notes, and then 2 quarter notes. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Let's do one more. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay, how'd you go? Count along. 1, 2, 3, 4, and Okay, so we had quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, and then 2 eighth notes at the end. Let's do one more slightly harder one, and then I want to put it onto the guitar. So here we go. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. How'd you find that one? Weird because I added an extra one in. Shouldn't have been too difficult. This should be 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. So you have 2 pairs of eighth notes in that one. This kind of rhythmic dictation is a really fantastic way of learning to do this, and it's one of the things that you get if you start doing clapping practice. Now again, on the website there's loads of resources for this, including an exercise page. Definitely recommend that you go and print that out and write down on it, because there's definitely something about the actual physical writing down of this stuff that really helps. So go and check that out. It's free, download on the website. Just wander over and grab it. Okay, we'll just do one more then, seeing as you insist. Okay, here we go. So 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. How was that one? Okay, that was 1, 2 and 3 and 4, or quarter note, eighth, 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 quarter note. Okay, it'll be up on the screen just here for you to check out. Make sure that you got that right. If you find writing this down neatly a bit of a struggle, download some of the free paper that I've got, the free manuscript paper you can get from my website, and just practice writing a little bit. All of these things are about practice. The first time you do it, your notes might look a little bit wonky or a little bit like circles, or you'll put the stem on the wrong side sometimes. Don't worry about it. It's just going to take a little bit of practice, but if you find yourself having a particular problem with stuff, then, you know, a little bit of practice on that very specific thing is probably a good idea. So now it's time to actually do some stuff on the guitar. I want you to write it down, but it'd be a really good idea to play this stuff as well, to even play along. Grab your guitar up and have a pen and paper there to write it down, but also have a go at playing it on the guitar as well. Now, the beat, the 1, 2 and the 3 and the 4 will nearly always take a down strum. Nearly always. The ands can either take an up strum or a down strum, but for now I would recommend that you stick to keeping it as an up strum. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? Learning to keep your hand moving I find really helpful. When I'm listening to a strumming pattern, if I move my hand with the music, I can kind of feel where the beat is and where the downs and ups are a little bit easier. So it's a little trick that you might like to try as well. So the idea here, you're going to be doing rhythmic dictation again, just like we did with the clapping. But with the clapping, I did a bar, then I stopped, then I did a bar, and then I stopped. And that's not realistically what you hear in strumming patterns very often. It's much more continuous than that. So I'm going to play the same pattern 4 times round. Now this first time I'm going to say where 1 is, just to make sure that you're on track. Okay, I'm not going to be doing that for the future ones. Okay, I'll just do it this very first time, make sure that we're all on the same page and that you can write it down fine. So metronome's still at 70 beats a minute. 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 1. How'd you find that? Got it written down? 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. So quarter note, eighth, eighth, quarter note, quarter note. 1, 2 and 3, 4. If you haven't got it right, skip the video back just a little bit. Make sure that you get to that starting point. Listen to it again. See if you can figure out where you went wrong, because this is pretty basic stuff. If you're not getting it, you just need to revise it a few times, make sure you're getting it right. If your writing's a little bit sloppy, don't worry about it too much, but do work on it. It wants to be neat. So exercise number 2 now. So this time I'm going to play it without saying where beat 1 is. So I'm just going to play the same pattern over and over again. I'll still give you the count in. Would recommend that you count along. Try and write it down first, figure out what it is. Maybe before I give you the answer, maybe play it along a few times as well with your own muted strums. Make sure you can get it. If you get it by the first or second time, you could play along with me for the last couple. Make sure that you got it right that way if you want. completely up to you. I'd recommend writing it down first and getting hit with the writing side of stuff. So here we go. Let me check what it is that I'm actually doing. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. How'd you do? So that one was 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. So quarter note, eighth, 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 eighth. So you would have had 2 pairs of eighth notes. Sometimes when you get 4 eighth notes, you'll see all 4 of them joined by 1 bar there at the top. But I wouldn't recommend doing that just yet. Just keep it into the pairs. I think it's a little bit safer for now. Let's move on to exercise number 3 then. 2, 3, 4. That one, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Quarter note, eighth, 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 quarter. Okay, so 2 pairs of eighth notes there in the middle. That one's really probably the most common rhythmic grouping that we're going to have, particularly when we meddle with it a little bit in the next lesson using a tie. It becomes the most common strumming pattern of all time, that one. Let's do one more. Okie dokie. 2, 3, 4. There we go. That one was 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So 3 pairs of eighth notes and then 1 quarter note there lonely on the end. Okay? So I'm hoping you're getting along all right with that. If you're struggling, please let me know in the comments. I'll see what I can do to help sort that out for you. If you've got any questions, remember the website's always a little bit better for getting some help with your questions. As well, this kind of exercise, in fact, all the exercises in this course, really great things to do with a jam buddy. If you've got somebody that you practice with regularly, you could write down a rhythm, then you play that rhythm to your friend. Your friend would have to listen to it, write it down, and play it back. You'd have to recognize if he played it or she played it back correctly. Then you can tell them, oh yeah, you got it right. You could check their notation, make sure that they've written it right, and help each other if somebody's not writing things quite clearly enough. You know, working with other people as always, I think, makes it so much more fun. So if you've got the opportunity to have a jam buddy or a practice buddy, it's really great thing to be doing. So now we're going to get a little bit more real and see how you get on. So I'm going to play the same strumming pattern for 8 bars, but I'm also going to be changing chords. So the chord's going to be ringing out. I'll keep the rhythm the same, but I want you to write down the rhythm pattern. So it'd be like exactly that. Hey, what's the strumming pattern in this song that I'm about to play? And I want you to have a go at writing it down. It is considerably harder when there's chords changing and the notes are ringing out, because it just gets a little bit more distracting. But do your best. It's not that difficult. This is a great first step. We're still sticking with only eighth notes and quarter notes. So nothing should be going too crazy here. Let's see how we get on. Starting with question 1. 2, 3, 4. Question 1. Answer for that one's going to be over on the website. Let's go straight into question 2. 2, 3, 4. Go. Hopefully that one wasn't too difficult. Let's move straight on to number 3. 2, 3, 4. important part of this as well to remember is that we're trying to just listen to the rhythm. So even though I'm playing chords now, that's kind of there to distract you. I don't want you to even think about it. I don't want you to think about what chords I'm playing, or, oh, that progression was nice, or that progression wasn't, or didn't like the way that was working. You're just thinking about the rhythm and trying to write the rhythm down. That should be the focus of your attention. So you're learning to kind of wipe away all of those other things and just focus on the thing that's important, which right now is the rhythm of what I'm playing, not the chords. We'll kind of train our ears up to hear the chords all the time, but that shouldn't be the point always. Okay, last one. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. There we go. That was your last one. A really interesting thing for me doing this exercise is that I always want to put variations in. This is one of those things where people say, what's the strumming pattern for that song? It's like, well, it's based on that strumming pattern, but there's always variations every 4, 8 or 16 bars or whatever. It's part of the process. So again, when you're transcribing in the real world, you're going to find that there's one pattern that you listen to and you're like, oh yeah, it's always the same pattern, but there'll be a variation every now and again. That's okay. That's normal. That's what happens. So when you're working out a strumming pattern for a song, you're after the kind of the general one. What is the most consistent strumming pattern on that particular tune? Occasionally you get songs where there is a very, very specific pattern. Wonderwall by Oasis springs to mind as being a very identifiable, very specific strumming pattern that most people want to learn if they're doing that tune. And you should have a go at doing that tune. Probably not yet because it's a fairly complicated one and we're trying to keep it nice and simple for now. Now, I'll be honest here, I was hoping to give you some real world examples and go, hey, look, you know your quarter notes and you know your eighth notes. Go and listen to these 10 songs and see if you can work out what the strumming patterns are. But I'm actually finding it really hard to find songs where the strumming patterns are this straight all the time. So they'd be a nice, easy introduction. Now, I'm sure I will find some, and as soon as I do, I'm going to pop them over on the website. So do go and check out if you're over on YouTube, check out the link in the description. If you're over on the website already, they'll be in the text part of the lesson slightly below, because it would be a good thing for you to actually put this into real world stuff. So where to now? Well, the first thing is I would recommend that you get some extra clapping practice or tapping. It's completely up to you. Use the pick on the back of your guitar to tap along if you like, or on a pencil on a table, or you can clap big and, be loud and proud if you want. It doesn't really matter. On the website there's a page there of rhythms to practice exactly that. So you just look at it and you practice counting along, really important part, and you literally look at the page and go 1, 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, whatever, just sitting there and clapping along. You'd be amazed how much it helps. The fact that you're seeing it and clapping along. If you get bored of doing that, do this. 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. You're still getting that same practice, and you're training your hand up to move consistently as well, which is fantastic practice. So lots of different benefits there by actually playing along with the rhythms. Definitely transcribing stuff off one of your friends is good. If you're on your own, using your phone recorder works great. Just literally hit record, play either one pattern over and over and over again a few times, maybe record 10 different patterns and then just listen back to them at random after a few days so you've forgotten what ones they are, and then see if you can write them down. Practicing your writing skills is definitely something I'd like you to work on before the next lesson so you're able to write this stuff down confidently. Lots of fun things ahead. In the next lesson, we're going to check out a little thing called a tie. And once you know how to put your tie on, it opens up nearly all the most common strumming patterns. But before you get there, please make sure you've got a solid foundation here. Make sure that you know your whole note, your half note, your quarter note and your eighth note, that you can write them down, that you get your tails on the right side, that you can do the rhythmic dictation of clapping or tapping, that you can do it from the muted strumming and the strumming where you've got some rhythm. If you've got a chance to do it with your friend, great. If you haven't, that's going to be okay. And make sure you've done at least I don't know, a dozen times tapped or clapped your way through or strummed your way through the sheet that you can get over on the website. Those things really, really important. Much better to build a solid foundation and build on it than be in a hurry to move on to the next thing and then always just feel like it's a little bit shaky. That ain't a great method. So, well, I really hope you enjoyed this first session today and you're getting a sense of accomplishment as you're going along. It does feel like a bit of a steep climb when you start on rhythmic dictation and understanding how rhythm works. The front of it looks pretty scary, but it's not that long. So it's just like the first couple of weeks of this sort of practice, it's like, oh God, am I going to be able to do this? This is really difficult. I can't write it, or don't, you know, maybe rhythm's not for me. I'm dysrhythmic or whatever, you know. That's not how it is. It is just practice. So you just want to keep slow and steady wins the race here. Just keep at it, a little bit of practice every day. If the first time you only get 3 right, then the next day maybe you'll get 4 right, and the next day you'll get 6 right, and so on. So, you know, do stick with it even if it feels a little hard. The benefits of doing this are real. They're real big. It will transform your playing. You won't have to ask people anymore, what's the rhythm pattern for that song? You'll be able to do it yourself. You'll be able to write down your own rhythms on your tabs. There's so many benefits. Just when you listen to stuff, you'll internalize the rhythm better. It's really, really it's a much bigger deal than it looks just on the surface, I can assure you. So I really hope that you'll stick with me and join me for the next lesson. If you're over on YouTube, I really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell if you want to get notified when I've got a new lesson coming out. As always, you can slap me a like and let me know in the comments how you're getting on with this lesson. If you're over on the website, remember that the newsletter will let you know about all of the latest courses that you got, but also on your dashboard you'll find the latest lessons, and that'll also have the schedule for when these new lessons in this series are coming out, and you can get all your PDF downloads and all of that stuff over on the website as well. So I'll see you for plenty more lessons very soon. You all take care of yourselves. Bye bye.